إن الحمد لله نحمده ونستعينه ونستغفره ونعوذ بالله من شرور أنفسنا ومن سيئات أعمالنا. من يهده الله فلا مضل له ومن يضلل فلا هادي له، وأشهد أن لا إله إلا الله وحده لا شريك له، وأشهد أن محمدا عبده ورسوله، وصلى الله عليه وعلى آله وأصحابه وسلم. السلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته. Now, brothers and sisters, it has been weighing heavy on my heart, just analyzing the times and the era that we live in. And some of you might have heard the statement, some of you may have not. And this statement was coined in a song that was produced by Nipsey Hussle. And it's also a statement that many people say on the regular nowadays, and not just tied to the poet Nipsey, but it also mentioned that it used to be stay safe, now it's stay dangerous. It used to be stay safe, now it's stay dangerous. And you walk outside in your neighborhoods respectively, you already hear it, especially for those who live in Philadelphia. For those who live here in Philadelphia, they know that the murder rate and the homicides is something that is overwhelming. And they know that the killing, which, I call senseless killing, and that's what it is because the Prophet ﷺ already prophesied about this, but the senseless killing, the back and forth, the youth, younger and younger, losing their lives. And on the flip side of that, the issue that we have witnessed through the media of the police brutality, the unlawful killing of, many people dying at the hands of law enforcement due to circumstances and situations because of the heavy racism, the systemic prejudice within the system that we, in this world that we live in. This is all true. These are all facts. This is not something that we witness. But the concept of the era that we live in, that it stay safe, stay dangerous. In other words, be equipped for whatever. Be on your toes for whatever. Inshallah ta'ala, we'll go in depth. I have a video that I already did on that, but we'll go in depth with once I get into the talk about the hadith that the Prophet ﷺ mentioned about al-haraj, that haraj, and it's translated loosely as they asked the Prophet ﷺ about it, and he said haraj is that a person kills someone and he doesn't know the reason why he's killed, and the person who did the killing don't even know why he did the killing. They call it senseless killing. It's killing done, senseless killings. The hadith is in Bukhari in the chapter which is known as Kitab al-Fitn, the book of trials and tribulations. At any rate, as we were saying, stay dangerous, to be more focused, to be a person who is alert, someone who is aware of their surroundings, someone who isn't want to allow themselves to be, taken advantage of, someone who's always going to be on guard. And this concept is the time and the era that we live in, because they have people right now, especially that are petitioning within Pennsylvania for the gun license to be loosened a little bit so that people can carry guns. So F1, so that people can carry guns and be licensed to carry guns because of all of the violence that is wreaking havoc on the streets and the senseless killing that's taking place. The civilians and the citizens, Pennsylvania, is like, listen, we need to be well armed. We need to prepare ourselves. And then on the flip side, our children and even ourselves, knowing that we live in some of the most volatile areas, that we want to be sure that we are kind of safe when we walk outside of our door. All right. And we want to make sure that our loved ones and our family members and our friends are all safe when we come outside of our door. We are living in that time where your nephew, who's about 12, 13, 14, is that you have to constantly, check up on to make sure that something doesn't happen to a 13-year-old. That time wasn't around. But if you look now, that time is around. That a 13-year-old can just lose his life as easy as anyone else. A 12-year-old can lose their life just as easy as anyone else. This is the time that we're living in. So it's not about staying safe no more. It's about staying dangerous. It's about being ahead of the threat, those who pose as a threat. And it's more deeper than that why these youth are losing their lives. And inshallah ta'ala, I plan on addressing that. I plan on really delving deep into the drill culture that is taking effect here in the underground, as they call it, the underground rap world within Philadelphia, Pennsylvania. But the drill culture, it does have a place. A lot of us hear about it from, Chicago and so forth, Chirac and everything like that. But here, a lot of the youth, especially in Philly, alhamdulillah, a lot of the youth are Muslims, or they have Muslim relatives and families, and they are partaking and involving themselves into this drill culture. And you see what's going on right now. You see why a lot of this killing is going back and forth. But anyway, this is the era that we live in, the stay dangerous era, okay? So I wanted to just address some issues dealing with this. I want us to understand how to view this. How do we view this? The correct way Islamically to view the concept of staying dangerous, the concept of being alert, the concept of the time period that we live in. How do we view it? The ulama, and especially when you find in the hadith and you find in the ayats of the Quran, you're going to find they use a word. That word, covers all of this. And that word is known as fitan. Okay, it's fitna, which is singular, and then fitan is the plural of the word fitna. All right. When Allah Jalla wa Ala addresses the issues of anything that's disturbing, tribulation, turbulent, because it got many different meanings and it can affect you in many different ways, Allah uses the word fitna or fitan. As Allah says in the Quran, وَاتَّقُوا فِتْنَةً لَا تُصِيبَنَّ الَّذِينَ ظَلَمُوا مِنْكُمْ خَاصَّةً. In Surah Anfal, the 8th chapter of the Quran, Allah Jalla wa Ala, in the spoils of the war, Allah tells the Muslims to fear a fitna that will not only afflict those who oppresses themselves from amongst you, those who do wrong from amongst you, those who you think that's how it's supposed to happen. Oh, he in the streets, so that comes with the streets. Oh, he living that life, that comes with that life. Or he's this, with that, he's a bad guy, this is what comes with that. But it don't always affect those type of people. Yes, that comes along with that game, live by the sword, die by the sword, live by the gun, die by the gun, right? But you have other individuals who are affected by that. Here, Allah Jalla wa Ala is telling the Muslims not to, to fear that fitna, because that fitna is not only going to befall those who is going to be specific who do wrong, but it can fall those who are not doing wrong. And we see that a lot. They coined it as an innocent civilian got hit or someone just lost their lives. Recently, there was a shooting that took place. I think it was it was a reunion or a graduation. 3 people got hit. Needless to say, that didn't have pretty much anything to do with whatever the problem was going on, the beef that was going on, that they actually got hit, and it actually hit them, so we see the debris, and that it doesn't always stay focused on whatever the problem is, it actually goes up. So Shaykh Uthaymeen rahmatullah ta'ala alayh defined for us in the chapter which is known as Kitabul Fitan. He goes in to give us a really, detailed understanding of fitna and how it affects all of these different areas. I have done this before, but I wanted to do it again because, like I said, there's a lot that we can learn from this that we already, he mentioned that when we talk about fitna, then it is something that, fitna can be experienced in a person's religion, of course, obviously, or a person's deen, okay? And deen, is more comprehensive than the word religion. All right, it's more comprehensive than that. So it can affect a person's deen. And there are many types or many forms of fitna. But you have to understand that the main two branches that you're going to find where fitna actually comes from, it's going to fall back on two things. And he's going to highlight that. One of those branches is known as Shubuhat. And you might say, what this got to do with the state dangerous thing? I'm going to tie it all together. Okay, so Shubuhat is important because it's the plural for the word shubha. It is doubts. And most of us, we wrestle with doubts on a daily basis, whether we're Muslim or non-Muslim. All right? Unless Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala blesses us to be believers. Yani, if Allah blesses us to be believers, and then we are able to be what? We're able to be absolute certain, and we are able to ward off those doubts by Allah Azza wa Jalla permission. But Muslims, you have to understand, just because you're Muslim doesn't make you a believer. You understand? There's levels. Okay, you can't just automatically assume I'm a believer because you're Muslim. It don't work that way. It's levels. All right. And when Allah Jalla wa Ala talks about people having no doubt, he's referring to the believers. Inna ladina amanu billahi wa rasulihi thumma lam yartabu. Allah Jalla wa Ala said those who believe in Allah, and especially then afterwards they doubt not. Allah Jalla wa Ala is addressing that the believers are what? Innama mu'minuna alladhina amanu. The believers are only those who believe in Allah on the last day. So Allah addresses the believers, and being the ones who have iman, to do that. So here, doubt, those things which exposes to a person, okay? A person is exposed to, where he becomes confused concerning the truth, all right? And that can be to anything. A person could be have doubt about, anything in life, not just about the creator, not, who's the creator, his attributes, how do we worship the creator? That's just one aspect. But a person can have doubts about other things, and then things can circulate and fester in a person's mind and their thoughts, and they start thinking, and if they are battling with those doubts, it leaves them exposed. You understand? So once you have those doubts, it leaves you exposed, because once you don't have no certainty, and you're not, you don't have no certainty, then you're not on what we call firm ground. All right, you are able to move like this or like that, and we see that a lot with the concept of peer pressure. Okay, we see it a lot with peer pressure. When a person isn't sure about themselves and sure about what they supposed to have with them or what's supposed to be right, sometimes they can be influenced by outside things. So they can be influenced by people that they are around, because they are not they don't have that, what the word I'm looking for, they are not so assured, they don't have that assurity within themselves enough to say, you know what, no, I'm going to be a leader. I'm going to take a leader role, a leader example here. I'm not going to follow just because everyone else is doing. I'm not going to allow that influence to push me that way. But they don't have that, because again, if you have doubts and you are afflicted with these doubts, it's going to expose you. And he says you might find a person who has some knowledge. He might possess some knowledge. However, he is tried, or she is tried, and we seek refuge with Allah. Whereas though they are tried, and then the truth become meddled, and the falsehood become like it's actually that which is correct. People change their stance. They might have in the back of their mind like, yo, this ain't right. But then they like, they do it so much. It's like, it's okay. Their heart become covered. It's black. They don't even care no more. It's no more shyness. It's nothing. It's starting to seem like it's the right thing to do. What are you talking about? Everybody doing it. You know what I'm saying? You living in the Stone Age. You backwards. Everybody's doing it. You need to get up on the times. What do you mean? And they're actually, convinced themselves of this, because everyone is doing it. And you're living in the back. You're going to get yourself killed if you don't move this way. You're going to get yourself hurt. People are going to look at you like you're odd. You're going to be strange. You're going to be in the way if you don't really get in with the times. Everyone is doing it. And this is that concept. You understand? So it's important that we know that doubt leaves you exposed. All right? So Shaykh Al-Damini says from the mid branches is Shahawat. Now the flip side of that is known as desires. All right, each and every one of us battle our desires on a day-to-day basis. Each and every one of us have some desires we're able to overcome, and we have some desires who overcome us. That's just the truth. We have some desires that overcome us, and we're going to meet a law with some of those desires. And there's many of our hadith that actually indicates that. So he says here, so a person will be exposed even though they might have knowledge, due to the desire of his self or herself. In other words, a person might know right from wrong, or differentiate between what's right from wrong, what's clear not to do. But because that person is tested with a desire and they really want that thing, or they really desire that thing, the desires can cloud their judgment there. Whereas though they're not even worrying about whether or not it's right or wrong no more. It's just whether or not it feels right, whether or not it fulfills. It's a gratification. I got it. I'm able to obtain it. So it messes with them to make the right choice, to make the right call. You know what I'm saying? And a lot of the youth, they are appealing to that. That's what it seems like. If you look around, they got the nice cars, they got the nice clothes, and they live in the life. So they look up to the people that's imitating them. And their desires is there. I want that too. I want that watch. I want to be able to rock those McQueens. I want to rock the designers. I want to rock, Dior. I want to be able to wear that. I want to be able to wear, have ice. I want to be able to have all of these different things. So they desire those things. I want to have that. My homie, he gets it. He getting a little couple dollars. I want to be able to do that. And it clouds their judgment. Instead of just refocusing and realizing how they are able to ascertain those things, whether or not, in the right way or whatever the case may be, it doesn't matter. I got to get it by any means. And it clouds the judgment. You might say, brother, I hear this before, but it's the truth. Influence, trust me, is dangerous. Influence is dangerous. Being influenced, especially if it's a negative influence, is very dangerous. And that's what we see with a lot of the youth. They are being influenced heavily, whether you speak Islam or you don't speak Islam, whether you teach in Islam in your house or you don't teach Islam in your house. Look outside. Walk outside. They are being influenced, and they are watching everything around them. They're observing those different things, and they are and they are overcome with their desires. They want things. They want to have things, and they just don't know how the right way to acquire those things. So Shaykh Uthaymeen says that the shahwa he's talking about is not the shahwa. It's not the desire that we know that takes place within a halal marriage. Let's just say that, right? He says here we're talking about hawa. For a person, because he says, therefore, that the person will have this type of desire for ya'lamu walakin yukhalif. He would know, but however, he would do the opposite. He would know, like, oh, this ain't cool. But because he's desired that thing, he still will go ahead and rock out with it. He says, well, hadith Shubuhat takuna fil aqaid. He says sometimes you will see that this fitna, of Shubuhat, of doubt, it will actually creeps into someone's belief system. And your belief system is the way you're going to see the world that you live in. You keep sleeping on belief. Oh, that's all the brothers talk about is Tawheed. All they talk about is this, etc., etc., etc. You keep sleeping on belief. Your belief is how you move in this world, period, along with your faith. What you believe to be correct, what you believe to be incorrect is how you're going to move. And if you keep sleeping on what you believe and what you crept into in your mind to think that this is right or this is wrong or this will tell you what you need to do, what you don't, that belief system is very important. And if you don't understand this issue, your belief system is important. What do you believe that is true? What do you believe that is false? And whatever that is, whether or not it's going to tell you to do that which is correct or not, you understand? That's going to play a major role. You have to understand your belief system is important. So a fitna can occur in someone's belief system. How they believe. You might have one individual don't believe that, this is my circumstances. I was raised up this way, so I got to rob and steal. You know what I'm saying? I got to take it from somebody. I got to live by any means necessary. This is just the circumstance. This is the cards I was dealt. I have to deal with that. It's either kill or be killed. It's either live, this, that, and this is that mentality. And they etch that in because this is what they believe. You argue with a guy that's telling you this is his belief system. He believes this. He believes this philosophy. He believes this. You understand? This is in his mind. He's like, yo, I have to do this. SubhanAllah. And because of that belief system, and because he's so heavy influenced with that, he have to actually be sit down. And in this time, it's hard to sit down, I mean, like you heard Lil Durk said, in Chicago, we ain't got no big homies. I mean, whether that's true or not, you know what I'm saying? But a lot of the youth ain't trying to hear nobody older than them. You know what I'm saying? I ain't trying to hear you talk to me. You know what I'm saying? What you gonna tell me, all right? You know what I'm saying? I'm living my life. I'm gonna do what I want to do. This is how I want to behave. This is how I want to move. You know? And you understand? And that belief system is important. So we see that. واستغاثوا بغير الله تعلقوا بغير الله ففتنتهم هذه فتنة شبهات. So from that is that you find them seeking this relief and this aid يعني, in other than Allah. God isn't a factor in their life. You understand? They don't view God as a factor, a solidified factor. This is abstract. Have a conversation with your child if you don't believe me. So sit down one day and have a conversation with your nephew, conversation with your niece, and just open up the conversation about God and view how they view God very abstract, as if not very something that is real, that the present can't be felt. You'll be surprised what they will say to you. You'll be surprised what they will respond with, and you'll be surprised how they will act. And that's a point you have to understand. So they seek relief and aid from other than Allah, and if other than God, period. They will seek relief other than that. We don't take our problems back to Him. Yeah, we scream out our belief in God. When we have a hope, when we have a prayer, something happened. Yeah, we might say that. That's something that's there. Because it's a part of the fitra. But on a day-to-day basis, if I got a problem, I'm not calling God. I'm gonna call so-and-so, or I'm gonna go handle it this way, I'm gonna handle it that way, or I'm gonna seek relief from or aid from something else. And he says they connect themselves, he says they connect themselves to other than Allah, right? He says they connect themselves to who? Other than Allah Azza wa Jal. So their fitna, this fitna of theirs, right, is the fitna of Shubuhat. It is something wrong. Doubt have crept in there. إذا كان عندهم علم, even if there are people who have knowledge, and even though Sheikh Uthaymeen is saying people have knowledge, we're not talking about people, even if they are scholars, we're not saying that. Even if they know right from wrong, even if they have some little bit of background information that this is not right, this is not wrong, even if they know that, right? He says, or they might suffer from the trial of desires. In kana indahum ilm, even if they have knowledge of right from wrong, however, they still oppose it, meaning the right, they still oppose it because they want to do the wrong. And the refuge is short with Allah. And then he says that we can also see fitna affect us in our actions. All right, so a person can be trialed within his or her own action, just as we see what have occurred with the first nation of Muslims, from the fighting of the Muslims of one another. The Muslims started fighting one another. There is a narration that's in this chapter that Imam Bukhari in the book of Fitna that the Prophet ﷺ told the companions, and he addressed them. He told them, "Do not become kuffar after me," meaning don't strike the necks of one another. Don't start going back to fighting, because if some people don't know, when the Prophet ﷺ came to the city of Medina, it was known as Yathrib, there was warring factions amongst the tribes, the Khazraj and the Aus and the Khazraj. There was a warring faction. That war was over 100 years, 100-year feuding that have taken place, and there were people being killed on both sides. There were tribe members killing other tribe members. It was really kind of hectic. So the Prophet ﷺ, when he came, he did some certain things, and like I was telling a friend, the most effective tool that he used, that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala have instructed him to use in the first place, was none other than Tawheed, to soften their hearts, to bring that love and that connection between themselves. Because I want to explain something to you, youth, and you may want to hear it, you may not want to hear it. There is no revenge. There is no revenge in the way that you think revenge is. There is no revenge. And to live that, he scored on me, he killed my homie, killed my brother. I feel better now because I killed him, or I killed his cousin, or kill anyone that's next to him. And honestly, we already know the saying, no, it's not going to bring the person back. All right. And the law of Qisas, Allah Jalla wa'ala does give options for the family, the slain family, meaning the person whose family, the one that got murdered. Allah Jalla wa'ala does give certain things to take place, such as a life for a life. All right. And the ulama explains some of the wisdom behind Allah allowing that to happen. It's not so much just a revenge, and then, it goes on to, oh, no, I want to take them. No, it's more than that. It's a dhulm, it's an oppression that have taken place when you take somebody's life unlawfully. When you take someone's life from another person and take them from their family, remove them unlawfully. Unlawfully, and you do that. That's an oppression. You oppress everyone that person's life has touched. Everyone, whether they have children, they got relatives, whether they got friends, whether they got this, you touch everyone's life when you unlawfully take a life of someone. So if that oppression there and that hurt to the family, because now, not to mention the flip side, if that person was a provider, if that person was one who was taking care of things, and that family was, depending on him or her, and you remove that person from that family, you cause a lot of things to happen. So Allah Jalla wa'ala, in his infinite wisdom, and no one is more wise than Allah. Allah Jalla wa'ala, he allowed the family to pick the option of taking the life in retaliation for the life that was taken. But look how it has to be done. It wasn't for the person from the family member to go grab his strap or grab his blick and then go see a person, run down on him, knock him off. That's not even called justice. That's not even called justice. Not in Islam. That's not justice. All right? You might feel as though it's justice because you did what you did. Another law, I'm going to really get into that drill stuff because it really go crazy. Shaitan is having a field day with that stuff. And the brothers don't even see it. Yeah, it does. When you lose somebody, it hurts. Trust me, it hurts. And we all lost someone. So yes, it hurts. All right? But there's a way you go about things, and there's a way that it need to be done. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala laid it down, and he addressed this issue of giving the person, okay, you can take his life. If you don't want to do that option, then you can do what they call diya. All right? Now, the diya is blood money. So it's like a compensation that the family is paid compensation for the loss of their loved one. Really, we should take our time out to study the laws of Islam, the Sharia, and you will see how just it is in regards to dealing with these issues. Because the revenge thing, it only leads to more killing. And that's what you see what's going on. Because they're not only revenging someone. They're not only coming out saying, okay, you killed my brother the other day. They're doing it in the most, subhanAllah, they're making music to support the killing. Oh yeah, I killed so-and-so. So what? What you gonna do about it? I say, it's demonic, man. How can I rest? How can anyone rest if I'm sitting there arguing with you back and forth, taunting you to do something about it because I upped the score. How can I rest? You understand? And then social media is right in the way. Yeah. What you think's going to happen? You're sitting there taunting the person. It wasn't enough for you that you caught the guy. You killed him. Okay. I got, my brother Khalid got killed the other day. I killed the person who killed Khalid. All right. I'm going to leave it at that. That wasn't enough. I got to go taunt the boy who killed the guy that killed my homie, my brother Khalid. I got to go taunt his whole crew. What you gonna do about it? Then I'm gonna show you how wicked it is because I'm gonna rap and then I'm gonna everybody jump on it and we all gonna rap. We're gonna make videos and we'll say the most disrespectful things that we can say and we're gonna diss them and we're gonna say all this different stuff. And this is Muslim youth doing this stuff, man. Muslim youth. It ain't just all a bunch of kuffar, man. It's Muslim youth going back and forth just doing this stuff. And somebody gotta live with that, man. So now what happened is when someone else see the video, right? And they watching the videos being spread around. What you think it's gonna put it up? It's not about revenge at this point no more. So that's what I meant about the revenge that you're seeking is not really revenge, because it's no longer, it left that realm. It's no more about revenge. You didn't want to just get the person. It's now you're taunting the other crew and you're pushing them to do something. Regardless, if a person wasn't even a killer, you're just going to, on GP, I'm like, I got to get you now. You know what I'm saying? What you doing? You just keep taunting me, and I got to come back and get you. And then that leads to another thing, and then it leads to another thing. And that's all. And that's what normally happens. So inshallah ta'ala, we got to be really aware that fitna is real. I just wanted to explain what fitna was, and we're going to end with this last hadith that, Sheikh he mentioned that. But he also said that, so it can happen two ways, either doubts or desires. All right, doubts and desires are the main reason. And then he mentioned that he says that when we talk about fitna, any type of trial tribulations, then it's going to refer back to those two things, those main things, either to doubts or either to what's the name, okay? And what we've seen that occur when the Muslims were killing one another, from amongst them, there were those who killed due to doubt, being confused about the truth, over falsehood that was with them. And then others from amongst them, they killed for leadership. They killed for fame. They killed for authority. The first killed for doubt, and the second one killed for desires. The hadith I want to bring to start off, and then I'm going to be done, is the hadith where the Prophet ﷺ, he gives us a beautiful understanding. By the way, all of these hadiths, you can find them in the book of Sahih Bukhari, which is called Kitab al-Fitna, the book of trials and tribulations. This hadith here is the hadith where the Prophet ﷺ said, "Man hamala alayna silaha falaysa minna." All right, so the Prophet ﷺ said, whoever brandish or whoever carries a weapon, whoever brandish a weapon, all right, against us, meaning whoever lifts up a weapon and bring it towards us. And us here is talking about the Muslimun, the mu'minun, it's talking about the believers. So whoever takes a weapon, lifting it up and carried it or brandishes against another Muslim, all right, the Prophet ﷺ said, "Falaysa minna," he is not from us, all right. This hadith has been narrated by Abdullah ibn Umar. We mentioned the Prophet ﷺ actually said this. Shaykh al-Amini says that this hadith, it shows us that carrying a weapon or brandishing a weapon against a Muslim is from the major sins, all right? It's from the major sins. How do we know it's from the major sins? How can we tell it's from the major sin? Because the Prophet ﷺ said, فَلَيْسَ مِنَّا, he's not from us. And whenever you find the Prophet ﷺ saying Latin, or if you find the Prophet ﷺ cursing an action, or doer for doing that thing, or cursing the action of that thing, or you find the law cursing the action of that thing, then know that it falls under the major sins. And there are other ways we can tell. You find a law threatening with a punishment, hudud, something like that, threatening with a punishment for a sin, then you know it's major. We know it's a major sin. All right, so Shaykh al-Amini says, لأنه رتب عليه انتفاع منه وكل الذنب رتب عليه انتفاع من فاعله فإنه كبيرة من كبائر الذنوب. كقوله عليه الصلاة والسلام, he said, it's just like the statement of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam when he says, "Man غش فليس منا," whoever is deceptive, whoever is deceiving, okay, he deceives others. He puts on multiple faces, right? So whoever does that, then he's not from us. وَلَيْسَ مَعْنَ ذَلِكَ أَنَّهُ يَكُونَ كَافِرًا. Shaykh al-Tamimi said, don't be confused. When the Prophet ﷺ said, فَلَيْسَ مِنَّا, he's not from us, he's not making takfir. He is not excluding that person no longer to be a Muslim. He has not removed that person from the fold of Islam. All right? So I don't want no one to take this hadith and think that the Prophet ﷺ is saying that. He's not saying, no, you're a kafir now because you did this. No, that's not what the Prophet ﷺ is saying. So Shaykh al-Tamimi says, وَالدَّلِيلُ عَلَى هَذَا, he says, the proof that indicates that that's not what the Prophet ﷺ intends when he makes that statement is the statement of Allah Jalla wa Ala when he says, وَإِن طَائِفَتَانِ مِنَ الْمُؤْمِنِينَ تَقْتَتَلُوا, طَائِفَتَانِ مِنَ الْمُؤْمِنِينَ قَتَتَلُوا. Al-ayah. In Surah Al-Hujurat, Allah Jalla wa Ala says, and when two parties from the believers, two group of believers fall into a fight, meaning they start fighting one another. But notice the point. Allah still called both parties, even though they fighting one another, what? Believers. Allah still referred to them as being believers, even though they are fighting one another. So that's the point he's trying to make. So the Prophet ﷺ is not saying because a person will brandish a weapon against another person is not Muslim. No, you still can be Muslim. And you can brandish a weapon against another Muslim. But this is not from the actions of of a believer, and this is not something that is sanctioned by Islam that you should do. All right. He says that he brings that point, and he says that the Prophet ﷺ from Abu Hurairah anyway says, "La yushiru ahadukum ala akihi bisalah." So the Prophet ﷺ is warning us in these hadith, because all these hadith is still around the weapon thing. It's all these hadith, he gives a list of hadith that still deals with the issue of brandishing a weapon, carrying a weapon, pointing a weapon, no matter what type of weapon it is. You can't do that towards another Muslim, let alone, and just because I'm saying towards another Muslim, you shouldn't be pointing a weapon towards anybody. But I'm just saying, if it's legitimate grounds for doing so, then that's something different. And I'm not going to get into all of that right now. But this is the point he said here. So this hadith from Abu Hurairah is telling us the Prophet ﷺ said, "La yushiru ahadukum ala akihi bis-silah." Do not point do not let one of you take your weapon and point it at his brother. Okay? فَإِنَّهُ لَا يَدْرِي لَعَلَى الشَّيْطَانِ يَنْزِعُ فِي يَدِهِ. Because he doesn't know. Here the Prophet ﷺ is attributing the actions of the shaitan. Let's go back to the actions of the shaitan. Because he doesn't know that perhaps the shaitan will cause it will cause it to actually fall from this person's hand. And what the Prophet ﷺ means is that anything can happen. He can be insinuated with something. I was just hearing a crazy story the other day. And the reason why I call it crazy, but it's something that's very real and it happened, because I have my own crazy story. But I was hearing this crazy story. God was explaining to me that how the nephew killed the uncle. The nephew was being all hied up from the day that they went to go pick him up that night. They went to go grab one of his homies, went to go grab him and pick him up. And he was already talking about, they following us, they doing this, and he kept brandishing his gun. He's in the back seat, they following us, but he's intoxicated. All right, so he's already off it right now. He's intoxicated. I forgot what drug he took, but then he kept grabbing the gun. So he kept the gun with him. He was like, yeah, they after us, they behind us. So needless to say, they dropped him off with the uncle. So I guess him and the uncle, we don't know what too much transpired, but him and the uncle in there, the uncle was trying to get him, cooled and settled and everything like that. Somehow it just led to the uncle getting killed. Somehow it led to the uncle actually getting killed. It just actually killing the uncle. And the issue that I had back in the day that, we're playing around and one of my homies had, a particular gun, and he points the gun to the guy's head, right? And he had like a afro at this time. His hair wasn't braided. And they playing. So the other one got a gun, he got a gun, and they just playing with the gun. The guns are loaded, by the way. They just playing. But they pointing at each other. They playing, you're young, you playing, you high, you're all chilling, you're doing this and that. And the next thing you know, the gun go off. And the bullet grazes the individual head. All right. He doesn't die, needless to say, but the bullet actually grazes his head. And when I read this hadith, I automatically thought about, I can see why the Prophet ﷺ prohibited, and back then a lot of us, we still was running around saying that we was Muslim. That's how it is. But I can understand now why the Prophet ﷺ was prohibited, and I can understand what he meant by because you don't know the shaitan yanzi'u fi yadihi. You don't know how the shaitan might influence. You know what I'm saying? You just don't know what can happen, man. You just don't know. So it's not really cool to point weapons at one another, let alone pointing at it with the purpose of really doing something to somebody. But I'm just saying, just pointing the weapons. So the Prophet ﷺ is telling us to be safe. And look what he says at the end of the hadith. He says that because the person, by way of that action, okay, can be a person who actually subject himself to the hellfire. He can actually subject himself to the hellfire. Shaykh Uthaymeen said this hadith is clear in regards that it's not permissible for a person, not a Muslim, to point towards anyone with a weapon. So it doesn't matter if it was an arrow, back then, what I'm saying, or it's a gun, musaddis, or it's a knife, or is it any type of weapon that can be used as a weapon that can harm someone? Taking it and pointing it at one another is just not cool. And you think that these hadiths are, little. No, these hadith plays a major role, and even in our psyche and how we move. You shouldn't do that. So if you learned not to do that, and you learned to keep your gun, because the next hadith after that actually talks about keeping your weapons hidden, in terms of not making sure that they are not out and exposed when you're around other Muslims. So the Prophet ﷺ is teaching us the proper etiquettes of how to actually make sure that we keep ourselves safe and others safe. Okay? But the youth, No, it's all good. Your adrenaline running is all good. You know what I'm saying? This is what you're thinking, but it's not all good because every action that you're doing, you already have a vile enemy that you got to deal with besides your ops up the street from you on the other block, who you're making your ops because of some this and something this or something that, and then it led to killing and all that. I'm talking about your real op, Shaitan. That's the real op. The real op that you got, your vile enemy. That's your op. And he wants to see you fall at any moment. So the moment you step out your door, he's always on you. Not like your other op. He got to wait to catch and see if you're going to slip or you lacking to make sure you this, that. This op is always on you. You understand that? Shaitan is on you. He made that vow. He's always going to be on you. Hum in his party, as Allah Jalla wa'ala said, he sees you from where you don't see him. He's always going to be on you. Always. And your only weapon against him, your only way to beat him is through Allah. It's the dhikr of Allah. It's making sure you move in the way that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala told you to move in order to overcome him, because there are sometimes he's not. He's always on your behind. Do you understand? So you have to understand what the Prophet ﷺ is saying, because when you do an action and you come out and you're thinking it's okay, it's not okay to do that. You guys picking up these firearms don't really know how to shoot, don't know how to aim, haven't been trained. You understand? Let alone being under the influence. Again, your enemy who is laughing and sitting there like, look at this, look at this person. I got him now. All right. Just when Friday you was at Jumu'ah, you was praying. Friday you was praying. All right. But now you out, you with the fellas, y'all under the influence, you know, y'all might have smoked, drink, whatever the case may be. You got your little hammer, boom, 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 and you just playing. It's you know, you don't have no intent in your body to harm no one. But you take the gun and you moving it around, or you take the knife and something happened and you, boom. And then we have seen cases where people actually harm themselves. We have seen cases where people actually harm themselves. This is what the Prophet ﷺ is telling us. And one of the principles in fiqh is that the ulama explained is that, you know, to prevent a harm is better and more greater than achieving a benefit. To prevent a harm. So you have to take those preventive measures. You understand? You have to take those preventive measures so that you don't fall into that thing. Okay. He says, he goes on. He says, فَنَنْطَلِقُ مِنْ يَدِهِ هَذِي الْآلَةِ, meaning the tool, whatever he had, the instrument that he had, الَّتِي أَشَارَ بِهَا, the one that he is pointing with, فَيَسِيبُ آخَرْ فَيَمُوتُ. Because if he's not careful and the shaitan is seeing with it, what happened is that instrument that he's using, the weapon, whatever weapon he has, and he's pointing it around like that, it can actually harm someone. It can actually harm someone, and that person can die because of that harm. And that person can actually lose their life. Well, had the kathir, he said this is something that happens in abundance. That happens. It's often. So he says, well, had the nahi tahrim. He says, so this prohibition that we find in this hadith is the impermissible kind. It's for tahrim. It's haram. ولا يجوز للإنسان يشير بالصلاة على أخيه لا جدا ولا هازئا. He says, so it is not allowed under no circumstances to ever take a weapon and point it at another. And he already mentioned whether this is a Muslim or non-Muslim, by the way. Shaykh Uthaymeen already mentioned in his explanation. To take a weapon, any weapon, an instrument, and point it at another, whether jokingly or seriously. He says, whether you're doing it out of play or whether you're doing jokes, it's not cool to do that, because again, your op, the only op that you have, the real op, he is going to look for any chance to pounce. And we've seen circumstances where a guy literally killed his friend, someone he grew up with. You know, actually, someone he actually grew up with and actually, you know, lost life, family, loved ones lost life, and he didn't really mean to do it. But again, these type of incidents happen, and so it's our job, and it's the job of parents who are parents. It's the job of people who got nephews and everything like that, and people who got nieces. It's our jobs to educate these youth and give them these preventive measures and these means to at least, you know, so they can have a fighting chance to understand what's really going on. Educate to them who is their real enemy. Explain to them, you know, these type of narrations to let them know that, look, Staying dangerous, I understand the concept. But you have to make sure you move smart. And moving smart doesn't mean that you walk outside with a weapon and thinking that that weapon is going to be the ultimate thing that's going to save you from death. That doesn't work that way. Many people die with a blick on them. I want to be truthful. There are many incidents where people die with the weapon on them. If death is for you, it's for you. As Allah Jalla wa Ala said, there's no soul that's going to die except that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala by his permission, and it's already been decreed. I don't care if you got your blick, couldn't get to your blick, couldn't run it fast enough. You can't put your trust all in a weapon. All right? Allah tells the believers on the battlefield to put their trust in Him, not the weapons that they were brandishing. Not the army tactics, not the battles. Yeah, He told them to prepare in Surah Anfal, to make steeds and things like that. When they're making war, yes, He told them to make preparations. You're supposed to do that. But at the same time, He never told them to put their trust in the instruments they were using to protect themselves. They put their trust in Him. You understand? So these guys walking around, the youth thinking that, okay, yeah, just because I got it on me, you can die with it on you. And that's just the truth. You understand? So that's not what you should be worrying about. Move smart. Move smart. Make calculated moves that are better. Don't run around taunting the dead. And I'll say that for another video, inshallah. Don't do that. And don't go around trying to be cool with everyone you see, this homie, that homie, and thinking that's the cool thing to do. Trust me, it's not. Because you may not be the individual that really not out there doing anything. But because you hang with so-and-so, birds of a feather flock together, whatever the case may be, somebody will get you, right, just to get to that other person. And that's how they playing out here. And now you lose your life over something you really had nothing to do with, all because you thought it was a game. We've seen it, man. You got to go back to the videos, man. The boy was on a hunting spree. You don't know what he's doing. He was actually on a hunting spree. Killed the comedian boy right on live. You just seeing him chasing him down. Just think about it. And that comedian boy wasn't hurting nobody, but taunting and playing sometimes get you like that. And we as Muslims got to speak about this stuff. We can't sit here and keep acting like this stuff ain't going on in our city and we don't see it. We got to say something. One brother told me, when you're going to speak on that drill stuff, bro. Ain't nobody, none of them youth ain't trying to hear you out there doing what they're doing. I said, I understand that. But one thing you have to understand that about dawah, and a lot of people don't know, Allah tells Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam this over and over in the Quran. Read the Quran. Allah tells Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam this. Never focus. All right? Never focus. Allah says, وَمَا أَرْسَلْنَاكَ عَلَيْهِمْ حَفِيظًا. We have not sent you over them as a guardian or watcher. لَسْتَ عَلَيْهِمْ بِمُصَيْطِرٍ. You don't have any power over them. Allah says, فَإِنَّمَا عَلَيْكَ الْبَلَاغُ. Only upon you is to convey. Allah never pays the responsibility on the Prophet ﷺ, and He reminded him of this, that you can make these people do anything, but you can convey. And the golden principle of any dawah that you give in dawah, you just understand, it's not the people, it's not how many people in attendance, how many the audience you're addressing. It's not that. It's never that. You can have 1,000 people that's sitting there watching you, listen to your speech. The issue is only having one of them. That's all you got to reach. If you're able to reach one, then your job has been done. Thinking that you got to reach the whole audience don't work that way. There's going to be some prophets that going to come with nobody. And you have to understand that if you're in that speech, you might don't reach no one. That's fine. That's cool. Because guess what? As you're conveying and you're doing it for the sake of Allah and you're calling them to that which is right, guess what? You still get your reward whether they accept it or not. You still get your reward from Allah Azza wa Jalla, whether they accept it or not, whether they listen to it or not, whether they take heed to it or not. But it's going to go down on record with the angel now. I'm not talking about the dunya. It's going to go down that the angel going to record. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is going to put it down in your book of good deeds that you did call the people to that which is correct. And that's what matters. That's the focus of dawah. You know what I'm saying? Dawah have to be fueled with sincerity. If it's not fueled with sincerity, we ain't going to get nowhere. You got to be fueled with sincerity when you're calling people to Islam. It don't matter who accepted it, doesn't matter who rejected it, that's your job. And it's going to be a lonely road, especially because sometimes you're not going to have people feeling what you're going to say. And that's okay. And I know the youth is thick and they hard-headed, but if this can save someone's life, and stop someone from going out there making a bad decision, and a Muslim knowing that their religion told them they can't take weapons and just flash them around jokingly or seriously and point them at another Muslim, or they cannot harm someone, they got to make sure they keep it safe and they can't move and behave this way. If they learn these type of things and they really have it and then they act, that's something different. But at least they had a chance to be exposed to it. And I don't think a lot of times a lot of our youth are exposed to what they can do and what they cannot do. They're just actually reactionaries, and they're more around being followers and being influenced by what they see. So we said it incorrect, inshallah ta'ala, in this talk, inshallah, the stay dangerous situation. Instead of programming your child to stay dangerous, program your child to stay smart. That's my advice. The stay dangerous concept, walk around and think you got to just walk around. The gun is not going to save you. قُلْ لَوْ كُنْتُمْ فِي بُيُوتِكُمْ لَبَرَزَ الَّذِينَ كُتِبَ عَلَيْهِمُ الْقَتْلُ إِلَى مَضَاجِعِهِمْ. Allah Jalla wa Ala made it clear. قُلْ لَوْ كُنْتُمْ فِي بُيُوتِكُمْ. Say if you even stay in your homes. لَبَرَزَ الَّذِينَ كُتِبَ عَلَيْهِمُ الْقَتْلُ. Those whom death was already decreed for them anyway. It will reach them while they're in their beds. They're in their beds. Because they said early on, لَوْ كَانَ لَنَا يعني لو كان لنا عندنا من لو كان من الأمر شيء ما قتلنا هاهنا. They were saying, to the Muslims at that time, those people that were weak and for the hypocrites, they didn't want them to go out and fight battle. They were telling them, have we had any say in the matter? Have we had any say in the matter? We would not have slain. We have not been killed here at all. Allah say to them, even if you were in your own homes, those who are decreed that death was going to come to you is going to reach you. So the gun in and of itself is not going to be the thing that's going to protect you. All right. So get that on. Stay smart, not stay dangerous. Stay smart and make sure you make the right moves. Don't put yourself in situations where you have to worry about somebody coming up on you doing something to you. Don't put yourself in those situations. Keep yourself aloof. That don't make you a chump. That don't make you a coward. That don't make you none of that. Because first of all, you shouldn't want to be down with anyone concept of what's this. If you know that you can protect your own self and you know what you are about and what you're capable of, and you know that you have to do what's necessary, you're not a coward. You only becomes a coward when you're playing by someone else's games. You understand? That's when you're a coward, because to them, that's the game you're playing. You're being a follower. You're not a leader. You understand? So now you're a coward. No, be someone that's respectable. Stay smart and not stay dangerous. That's my advice to everybody. Thank you for all tuning in. Whatever we said that was incorrect in our translation was definitely for myself and Shaitan. Whatever we said correctly from Allah Jalla wa Ala. Subhanaka Allahumma bihamdik. Ashhadu an la ilaha illa anta astaghfiruka wa atubu ilayk. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.